it's one of these beautiful, soft June mornings, and the breeze is so gentle and just slightly overcast with the sun breaking through. Seems to me like the perfect day to show you this lovely, pastoral, gentle garden. I've heard, and I think too, it really has elements of an English garden, a lot of elements of an English garden. So we'll look at those. You can be looking out for those. But also so harmonious, so welcoming. So I can't wait to show you. I mean, even before we enter, right here at Streetside, there is this luscious, luscious garden. Just this range of pastels, pinks, so pretty. Peonies and foxgloves and range of textures, and I can see what's coming along later. But all then contained within a boxwood hedge in the back. I mean, that's very English, and you'll see hedges everywhere on this property. Also, gorgeous trees. I mean, there's a sugar maple just beyond that hedge. The trees here on this large property, we're at the end of a road that was put in the late 90s, and this area was developed at that time. So this is the very end of the road. So there's a lot of privacy, and there's a lot of land. Just 3.5 acres right here, but then that rolls into 15 acres of common land, and then a lot of conservation land beyond. So again, I think that is an English feel. It's just, you know, looking out over the walls, over the hedges, through the pastures. So we'll see more of that as we head to the back, but I think you even get a feel for it in the front with all these trees. The husband especially is passionate about trees, and they've been planted so that they have space to become their full selves. They're, you know, you can really see the proper shapes of these trees as they mature. We'll walk along and I'll tell you a little bit more. Both the husband and wife have long loved gardening. They both had grandmothers who were big gardeners. And early on, for instance, in the wife's very first apartment, she got permission from the landlady to put in a vegetable garden. And then when they married, even before children, they started gardening together. And they just love their gardens. So they do, as I said, the husband loves trees. So for all things like birthdays and anniversaries, he often gets a tree. And this is a very recently planted red bark sourwood. I mean, that's a native of Appalachia. And as I've said before, you know, as the birds and insects from the mid-Atlantic, even the South, have become more prevalent here, it really will act like a native from our area. It's a great sort of thing to put in. You can see over there, I mean, there's this gorgeous copper beech with, again, like plenty of room to spread out. It's just, I love trees that have been given the space for them to really do their thing and be themselves. Ahead is a linden tree. There's another sugar maple next to the beech over there with this gorgeous space. And we're heading down on this site. So this house, and they've been here for 20 or 25 years. So the trees have had a chance to really get established. And as they told me, their builder had been a landscape architect. So he very sensitively sited the house. So it just nestles right into the contours of the land. It's a really nicely integrated house and landscape. So we're coming along past, well, this is the linden, and there's a beautiful Coosa dogwood on the right with the petals just cascading down in this gentle morning breeze, which is so soft. And then there's this wonderful Alaskan cedar that was another gift to the husband from the wife on an anniversary, and you know, they just love it. It was tough to get it established on this. This slope actually has clay underneath. That's pretty unusual for Concord, especially to have up on a hillside like this. But there it is, and they stuck with it, and it's just gorgeous. And then next to it, as we come along, is another special tree. This is a beech Fagus, so beech is Fagus contorta. And they meant this can happen. They intended to get a weeping beech, and yet, they're all kind of grafted onto each other when they're those special, unusual things. And it turned out to be just this wonderful beech. I really think it's the best shape next to what they already have a spire going up with the Alaskan cedar. So now they have this wonderful beech that I'm sure looks quite sculptural in the winter too, because of the way the branches wind in and out of each other. I mean, Contorta tortuosa, that's another name for it. It sounds awful, doesn't it? But it really can be just lovely to look at in all seasons. So as we come around this way, I think what I want to do is also point out they had a house and a garden that they just loved right here in town. But when their fourth child came along, one bathroom, they knew they needed another place. And so they moved here, but they already had many trees that they just loved at the old house. So they moved them here, which is quite remarkable because the trees include this Katsura tree right here. Look at the size of that. And that is really a beloved family tree. And Katsuras are really special trees. Their bark, their branching, those heart-shaped leaves. And people say, I've heard them, so they have a lovely, lovely scent in the fall. I've heard it called cotton candy. I've heard it called apple pie. I've never smelled it myself, so I want to come by and have a whiff this fall. But they're just, and this one is pruned so beautifully. I mean, with this love for trees, that also, the mixture of having them pruned carefully and regularly, which the husband does some of that himself. He also works on the hedges that way. And then given the space to be themselves, there's some marvelous specimens here. Which is also kind of an English thing. So let's come in this way to this lovely quiet garden at the side entrance. We're coming into this really peaceful spot. I mean, past this yew hedge. We have a lot of yew in Concord, but we don't have a lot of yew that is pruned as gracefully as this is. When I visited here, this was all being hand pruned, which I do to my boxwood, but I've never done to my yew. I mean, that means like snip, 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 each little bit. But that you end up with this, you can do these special things, like end up with this very graceful curve. So this space in here is just so, it's very welcoming. And very formal at the same time. It has a soft, welcoming quality, and yet in its really like perfect symmetry. The hedge going both directions, and both of these beautiful planters flanking the hedge. You can see a thematic color palette developing in the garden already as we've walked along, and it's right here. All these beautiful pastels together. And this lovely hydrangea, this lovely perovskia, the lantana, annuals below. I love it also, this shift in value here. So you've got this deeper purple. It just is gorgeous. And there are two of them right here, mirroring each other, as do, well, I should step back and say, this is the area where the play set was all those years. So now the children are just grown. So they shifted over to making this space their own for, this is kind of a Western exposure right here. So having their drinks, having an afternoon tea, having a little chance to read a book next to that lovely burbling fountain. It's so great to be able to introduce sound to a garden, and a really peaceful sound like that. And You know, I hear the son's bedroom is right up above, and he just loves to open his window and hear the sound. I can imagine it's so gentle, cascading over that millstone, down onto those river rocks. Beautiful, all those circles. I mean, this is a very carefully designed space with repetition, one circle after the next. I mean, look at these very carefully placed pie-shaped flagstones. And then the pattern here, that's a very formal thing to do, this mix of Creeping Jenny and the Impatiens. Really pretty. I mean, these are pretty colors, the pinks you'll see throughout this garden. Gosh, we're in a little space, but there's a lot to show you here. I love even the mix of what is underfoot. I mean, walking over here, hearing this crunch of gravel, that also brings me back to garden visits in England, where there are so many gravel paths and driveways. And then back to beautiful use of shrubs in these throughout the garden, and hedges and repetition of shrubs. This is a beautiful group of boxwoods, hydrangea behind. I mean, look, that looks like it might be Annabelle, something with a big white, fresh-looking ball. And then a nice mix of annuals and perennials. Ageratum right here. Love the color. I mean, this very cooling, calm color right in the palette. And these are little heuchera, which is such a great plant to use for color. Since it's the leaf, it'll stay just like that. This is a beauty bush, Weigela. And, I think, and again, alyssum. So I learned something new this time, and that is, so being here on this beautiful piece of land, backing up to conservation land, of course they have deer and a lot of wildlife. So they are always looking for things that will stand up to that. And apparently deer do not like alyssum. So that was quite an interesting thing to learn. Hosta, again, the choice of variegated hosta here, so that there's a little white or pale color to tie to the pales there. It's very sensitive. And I am pretty sure that this is an American holly in its form, this pyramidal form. And that's wonderful because that's a native plant. And holly has a nice formality, but natural quality. And I think that ties in with the house so beautifully too. Great choice for that. So much to see. Look at the pig with the alyssum in it. So sweet. This granite step, I just love that. And then another beautifully planted planter. Again, these soft pastels, the use of white, the repetition of white from plant to plant, that lanium below. So gorgeous planter. And again, repetition. Formality. There's a beautiful sister to it right across the way. And another holly right here. And another beauty bush. So it all lends to a sense of calm and order. And it's wonderful. It's a little shady in here. So we have this is Stilby. I mean, Stilby just has such a nice leaf, so even when it's not flowering, it's got that interesting form to it, but it also will send up these great spires of white, that one looks like. This nice brightness of the ageratum, some more alyssum, and this is such a great place for this climbing hydrangea. It's just gorgeous. I love it when gardens have things that go up like that. So the house is really situated so nicely nestled down, but then there are these elements that go up and frame this wonderful space, very carefully considered. I know these benches were custom made for this space, and everything here is thought through and considered in a way that just makes me relax. All that work has been done. I love, this is a great shrub. So this is Fothergilla, and that is a native New. So it has bloomed already. It has a gorgeous white bloom, like mid-May, I would say. Beautiful with flowers. And then it also, you can see beautiful, beautiful color and leaf shape right now. Sometimes it's sort of blue-green. And then beautiful color in the fall. I mean, it's really this sort of purpley red. It's a great plant. We come past some hostas, this wonderful grouping of Brunera, Jack Frost. So I love seeing those. I mean, some of these big groupings of things, it really lets the eye relax and rest. You can just, it's very easy to take in. It's something I love. There's a lot of that going on at Mount Auburn Cemetery, which is a wonderful place to visit for plant lovers. So it just makes it easy to see how a plant, for the eye to capture this great swath of one type of plant, see how it behaves a little differently in different places. It's a great place to go for that. And we'll head out here, just to sort of the driveway area. But again, beautiful annuals to bring brightness. The New Guinea impatiens are so pretty. Their leaf is so pretty. Ageratum, one of my favorites, and then Moralisum. And these planters are so great too, to give some height right there with that hibiscus and lantana and alyssum. And then as we get out a little bit more into the sun, where the plants, where you can have more annuals, more floriferous plants, there's just this lovely little corner garden with that rock they love so much that they moved it from their old house, along with these big trees that came with them. So it's wonderful. And here, again, it's a lot of gorgeous, and they've repeated some things from that other garden, but they've introduced the taller salvia out here to give it some substance. Of all these, I want to point out heliotrope, because it's such a beautiful old plant, used a lot in the 19th century. And so I love its old-fashioned quality. Again, even though this garden gets more vibrant out here in the sun, it's consistent with the palette that's used, that we've seen throughout. I mean, really, really pretty colors, which make it really harmonious, calming, lovely. Things that are going to grow up to be much bigger and billowy, like these cosmos. It's heavenly. So here we'll head to the backyard. I mean, I think, is that even the right name for it? It's just so extraordinary. And it does roll out to all that, to a pond, to some beautiful, beautiful land. And along the way, what a path to walk along. The pairing of roses and lavender, again, is a real classic. Really, I'd say quite an English classic. Just beautiful, beautiful background up against this white house, against the gravel, along these flagstones, these beautiful square flagstones. Very considered, very careful. I think as we get out, we'll take a longer view at this beautiful Japanese maple. It is just pruned in an extraordinarily careful way, so that, again, it's beautiful to look at from the inside now. But in the winter, it's a garden sculpture, so close to the house too. I'm sure they deeply enjoy it. And they're so pretty. I mean, these little seed pods. And again, you look at the pruning, you can see how lacy and lovely it is to look up through it. It's just heaven. It's a very special tree, and I can see they've lit it for night too. It's a real centerpiece, I think, as they look out from the house. Well, we're looking down along this gorgeous, gorgeous garden, the start of the backyard gardens. And I hope you can see this look of looking across the peonies to those foxglove beyond, and those colors together that are that peachy color next to this vibrant pink. It's all within this soft palette. And the contrast of the spires of the foxglove to these big globes of peonies. I mean, I know it doesn't last forever, but isn't it stunning, moving even when it does? This garden is very special, and it really, we'll walk along and take a closer look at it, because I can see a wonderful succession of plants coming up. At the moment, let's just take it in for where it is right now, which is this mix of peonies and columbine and the big heads of allium and this lovely sweet veronica. And there's some milkweed coming along back there. And then all interplanted, I hope you can get a good look because they're small right now, but the spires will be coming up on these beautiful delphinium. So again, like everything we've been seeing along the way, analogous colors, that is close together on the color wheel, like as pink and purple are, and that's when, and blues. So nothing jarring, very gentle. And some nice big plants here in this big space too. You can look at the height of that allium. Look at the height of what the filipendula is going to do. And this is also a native to the US. Great to incorporate those. I love seeing, actually, as we've seen in this garden, though it has an English look, they've done a great job incorporating natives as well. As is, just to show you something that will be coming up, that will be doing its thing. This is Amsonia. This is the Hubrichti, which is my favorite because it's so lacy. And I was saying it's going to do its thing later on. It actually does a lot. About just a few weeks ago, it was covered with blue, pale blue blooms, which of course is just, again, so soft and lovely in this garden. But I love it, especially for what it does in like September, October, even November. All of this foliage becomes this brilliant, brilliant yellow. So it's all this laciness, perfect for fall, soft. It's a wonderful plant. So I see wonderful things coming along, lilies and more fall things. There's a wonderful anemone, a big anemone back there. These wonderful broadleaf chives, they have that great bloom on them, but also texturally, they're so great. There's definitely been attention to a mix of textures in this garden too. It's very, very rich and full and could be, it's stimulating in a way, but just the peaceful quality of the color palette and the softness of the flowers that are chosen give it this great mix of like depth and interest and stimulation, but nothing jarring. Very, very calm, very harmonious. And I love the way this really varied garden, lots going on, lots to see, is then backed by this really, really simple boxwood hedge. I mean, it's so Englishy. It's beautifully pruned. I hand prune my boxwood hedge too, and so I know it's a labor of love to do something this long. And this one is gorgeous, this bright green color. Just a great contrast to all that was happening here, and something to then add this feeling of calm, consistency. I don't know, I feel even like this sort of secure grace being around something like this. So I really want to show you more of this yard and the way it's framed. There are a lot of interesting shrubs. There are a lot of things that are really useful when you're thinking about transitioning from a yard to the wildness of the woods. It's really nice to have something in between to do that. And they've used some great natives for that, actually quite a lot. So I want to point those out. And it's just, again, it's a very gracefully done thing. So, I mean, even this, we've all seen this, but this is rhododendron. I think it's a maxima. So maximas are definitely native. Wonderful choice right there. Ooh, I'm looking down to, oh yeah, okay. So this is also a native. This is a, I would say, Itea or Clethra. You can decide. So yeah, but that is also wonderful. Look at the bright green. I mean, if it's an Itea, it might be a little Henry. That's what I'm thinking. And I love Lady's Mantle. It's one of my favorites. The way It collects the raindrops or just dew on its leaves and then the chartreuse color. And it's really tough. I mean, I've put it all kinds of places and it does very well. And this is something, and it's repeated in this garden. And again, I love the repetition. And there are 3 here, and there are a couple more down the garden. This is a native viburnum. And viburnum is a great plant. And some are natives and some are not. But this one, this cranberry viburnum is native and has a lot going for it. I mean, it has these interesting leaves. It has these reddish stems of the new stem. It has a lace cap bloom. So it blooms white, but it has this wonderful sort of plate-like bloom. And then those blooms turn into bright red berries that are just gorgeous on the plant, but also birds love them. So it's a great contribution to habitat. Just sweep through here to see wonderful dogwoods, a mix of dogwoods. So down there is a Florida dogwood. You can see it's past blooming. And this is a Coosa dogwood. So really nice edge of the woods, out to the meadow kind of look. And a mountain laurel under there, and another wonderful Coosa dogwood right here, and more Fothergilla. So we're getting this great repetition through the garden, great use of native plants. And more Fothergilla right here, planted in 3s. I mean, there's a lot of space here, right? So you can really use shrubs almost the way I might think about perennials in my own garden. You want to group them in multiples like that, in those graceful 3s and in repetition through the garden so that your eye is picking up the same thing, understanding what's going on there. So yeah, gorgeous. So this is really interesting to me too. So we have here a layering of shrubs. And they're native, so they're usually, quite loose and, or just used as a specimen or just a group of 3. And what we have here is a layering of 3 different types of shrubs blooming at 3 different times of the year. So you get a lot of interest and also just the range of texture right here and something to soften the view as you head over to the far meadow. So in front is a dwarf forsythia. So imagine this whole run, again, bright yellow, late April. In back of it is an itea. I am guessing that's Little Henry. And you can see the bloom is just starting. There's just a little bloom on it. And then behind it is clethra. That's a bigger plant. It's quite similar to itea. Sometimes I have to scratch my head about those two. But it's just really cool to me to see how these plants are used in a totally different way than I've ever seen before. In this formal way, but natural, and a plant like that will really support the insect life around here, which is in turn, of course, supports the bird life and all animals. Well, just look at this long view. I mean, this is something that I just love, and I bet you do too, here on this very benign morning. Look at that lovely pond, that flat water, and then the gentle meadow rising up beyond with its fresh early summer grass, and then classic Concord mix of pine trees, oak trees beyond. Heaven. And to have that in the background of this more formal but natural garden, it's spectacular to me. I do love the way the garden is punctuated. Again, this is a very formal thing to do, to put this columnar sweetwood tree right here. Again, this was a gift to the husband from the wife, his love of trees. And great punctuation to the backyard, or the corner of this formal space. I think it also echoes the shape of the pine trees beyond. So that is a wonderful tie as well. Flowering shrubs everywhere are a way to bring big amount of color and fragrance to a large space like this, used almost as if they were perennials themselves. We sweep from the rhododendron into the spirea, the bridal veil back there. luscious garden here along the base too. I just think these foxgloves, they hue so closely to the look and feel of the whole garden, that delicate, lovely, feminine color. There certainly is a femininity in this garden as well. And then you can see coming along some things for fall, the sedum. That's an ansonia. This is blue star ansonia, which has such a beautiful bloom. It's more petite than the Hubrichti. There have been primroses here. We're going to have some daisies coming up here for a spot of bright white in the summer. Geraniums are so great in a space like this. But all along, this shrubs and hedges and just an eyeful of wonderfulness. It's just so great. This is all Miss Kim, a Korean lilac. And it's gorgeous with its little leaf, but it is covered with bloom. And when I was here a couple of weeks ago, it's also a super, super fragrant lilac. And a super pretty one. These little blooms are this very pink purple, very feminine looking plant. And to have this sweep of it is really a treat. Okay, we'll come through here to another wonderful surprise. My jaw dropped when I first saw it, so we'll see if we can get that feeling back. This is a white garden. An entirely white garden. The only other place I have seen that is Sissinghurst, where the classic white garden is, Vita Sackville West. She may have been the first one about 1920, 30 to do something like that. But here, right off the house, so this is a place they use at night too, and white flowers will just really shine in the night. But look at this. And look at all of all these heads of these flowers working together right now. There's just so much beauty in here. Some gray foliage too, which offsets it so beautifully. I think really wisely interplanted with these red twig dogwood with this variegated foliage. So as flowers come and go, you'll have the constancy of this white. This white next to this pale, delicate green. Again, it's just everything here is so soft and lovely. And this foxglove, these plants and the quality of them is just outstanding. It's been a hot week and just extraordinary that they're standing up like this and just looking, wow, luscious. Looking down the sweep of this garden to what is beyond. There's some tall plants, that aruncus down there. So have something coming up like that. The variety of white plants that we see, the different sort of seasons. There's a lily there. So I bet that's a Casablanca lily that's going to be this big, white, fragrant wonder. Incorporating some gray in this lamb's ear is such a great idea. So it's silvery and white and glistening right now, but imagine using this space, for drinks or in the evening, which they do, of course, because look at what is right here. So this is a recent addition in the last year, as many of us did do something special in their outdoor spaces. Since that's where we were living, they put in this great big fire pit. And they found this amazing piece of stone and had it cut like this. So this is custom and special and really carefully figured out. And I love, again, this whitishness, white and gray, ties right in with the garden and that's adjacent to it. A lot of thought around here and a lot of sensitivity to how you'll feel in a space like this. As we come along, they're just gorgeous plants. These roses, delphinium, and delphinium are not the easiest thing to grow at all. So it's a big commitment to do something like that. And it's a very soft English look. The delphinium and rose pairing right here is just, and I am now picking up the fragrance of this white rose. So it's not just the look, but the smell of this garden. And, I think this is balloon flower that'll have these, just imagine in the evening, these white balloon-like balls coming up from it. I think this is something called a heucherella. It's a cross between tiarella and heuchera. Tiarella is a native, and many heucheras are too. So I just think it's got very special foliage. And again, just a different type of white. Because everything you can do with whites is right here in this garden. Such a lovely variety. And here's dianthus pinks, wonderful silver foliage for the garden. I think this is, yes it is, this is a sage, a salvia right here. And everywhere we have foliage, it's been considered too. So this is variegated. So you're bringing in white right in the foliage, and the silveriness of that, and this wonderful. Maybe we're getting into a little more shady area. This is an astilbe, a beautiful white astilbe, and look at this. So it's white and silver on that plant, and then just great big. Wonderful, wonderful white shapes and forms. I mean, a phlox, this is the earliest phlox that I've seen. It's coming out really early here. And they have a later phlox beyond. So this garden is also designed, not easy to do, to have a lot of flowering through the season. It's densely planted with with everything that you can do with white and silver. And for me, breathtaking. So I hope that you can feel some of what I'm feeling right now too. And don't you just love the way the owners found this tropical theme for her planters? They run all along these gracious steps, and they're a contrast to the rest of the garden, which is so harmonious, but I love that up against the house. And I love that in this sunny spot to actually, here's how the contrast works. She's used complementary colors right across the color wheel from each other. Purple and yellow are right across the color wheel. So all of a sudden, there's this energy. And of course, excitement in seeing different types of leaves, things that we don't see every day, some great scale. This is an area it's interesting to see because it's different from the rest of the garden. And yet there are things in terms of its repetition. It's the way, again, she's shifted the whole theme to tropicals. So there's unity that way. So nice to see some contrast and yet still some things that stay in harmony with this wonderful space. Let's head down to the pool area. And get one last glimpse of the white garden as we go along. Beautiful stonework as we head down there. And again, this is a yew hedge, but it's pruned so artfully by hand. Isn't this a gorgeous Japanese cut leaf maple? Wonderful leaf formation and just spilling over the railing, so graceful. We'll head around this way, and again, we're just following this. I don't know, I just feel like touching it. It's so soft. And then this juniper makes this wonderful ground cover right here. There's a gorgeous climbing hydrangea there, boxwood ahead. The hydrangea wraps right around the wall. And again, you have this wonderful continuous line of the same plant. Just gorgeous. A whole run of the climbing hydrangea. Above it, a whole run of boxwood. And below it, there's that vinca. So it's very easy for the eye to understand. Creates this very calm feeling. Just very generous, peaceful beauty. A quick look around this area before we head to the pool, because I know here we have just an enormous boxwood hedge, which the husband prunes by hand. Again, I told you what a labor of love that is, but it does connect you to your plants. This is very healthy. And then this great yew hedge that wraps all the way around, with vinca down below. And I think this is a honey locust that rises up above. Again, they've left so much space for this tree to really do its thing. I think that's just a very generous move for the tree and creates such beauty. And we're passing this lovely, lovely clethra, that native, and grown up to its full size and form. That's nice to see. It's a really handsome, it grows into a large shrub like that. And then past these, it's wonderful to see something within the palette, in the pink palette, but really vibrant out here in the sun next to the pool. I think it's a wonderful compliment even to the pale blue of the pool. Everything is considered here, right? It's just one pastel, one beautiful flower from that corner of the color wheel, that pink, purple, blue, that makes it so lovely. And wow, a Kousa dogwood in its full glory. I think we've caught its moment right here. I love its bright white, and this will hang on for quite a while. I want to point out from here a really special tree. It's a tree that's quite special to this family. Right by the house, right on that corner, is a witch hazel. Some witch hazels are native. I don't know if that one is. But witch hazels are very special because they bloom so early, like yellow blooms in March, sometimes even earlier. But that one is particularly meaningful because it's right outside the husband's office. And there are bluebirds that, a feeder right there with bluebirds that come to the feeder. So he loves his trees, he loves his birds, and it's all right there. And isn't that placed beautifully right there at the corner of the house? So let's just go around the bend and take a closer look at what's coming up. And here as we come around, really this quieter side of the house, less used, we still see extraordinary things. We see this really handsome, and that's got to be a Maxima rhododendron, but I have never seen one, I don't think, that large. And the way it's placed so that it doesn't compete with the side edge of the house. It really is complementary right there, softening all of those wonderful sort of Greek revival and federal kind of lines in the house. It's got something very special underneath it that I want to show you too. A big surprise to the family when this happened this spring. So they had a wild turkey mother lay her eggs right here under their rhododendron. And she sat on those eggs for the full gestation period of 28 days. The things that mothers will do. But it worked. They hatched. And this is just a little sign of what was happening earlier in the spring. We're coming around to the front of the house again and passing some wonders again. I mean, these are hemlock. I love the way the cones look at this time of year, so delicate. There is something noteworthy about this hemlock. There are 3 hemlocks, and we'll pull back and show you their size in a moment. They were moved here. The family moved them here themselves 20 years ago when they moved in, and I just want you to look at the extraordinary trees they've become. Over here is also a really interesting plant. So this is an American holly. Many hollies come from Asia, but this one is Ilex opaca. So it has this wonderful, strong pyramidal shape, so tall. And again, since they've been here this period of time, things have grown into their fullness, which is just so great to see. I love this type of rhododendron. This is a Wilson rhododendron. It has these gorgeous, smaller leaves, so soft looking, a little sweet bloom on it, but I think it's really grown for its leaves, and you can see why. It's also in the winter when most rhododendron leaves will curl up in the cold. These stay this form, they don't curl. And it's so good to think about what happens with plants in the winter. We're in winter for such a long time here in Concord. So yeah, and past another pair of hollies. They're so handsome. I'm guessing that they're big meserve hollies covered with berries, which means that somewhere there is a male. You don't get all those berries with many ilexes, so winterberry too, unless you have a male and they can pollinate. So let's just back up a bit and look at how handsome and symmetrical and graceful this is. It's just been such a wonderful experience to be here with you, and such a pleasure on this gentle morning to be in a garden that's both majestic and subtle and gentle and welcoming.